Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, MTU Jazz Band. My name is, let's give him another hand, yep. My name is Wayne Gersey. I'm the Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion here at Michigan Tech. And I want to thank you for braving the slippery roads and sidewalks and making it here safely to commemorate such an important day. We have a great evening planned for you, but let's remember the particular reason why we're here. We're gathered here to celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King would have been 94 yesterday, and long after his death, his legacy has endured and is celebrated worldwide, which speaks to his significant historical and cultural impact. As I thought about this evening, part of one of his quotes that resonated with me was, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." From these words, I believe we are challenged, each of us, to make it our responsibility to promote mutual respect and equity for all people. And if this final thought sounds familiar, it should, since it's part of our Michigan Tech vision. It's our obligation as Huskies to continue this work. I challenge all of us to continue his work by marching towards a better and more just future dedicated to all. Next, I'd like to thank Rachel Hathcote. She's gonna, where's Rachel? I wanted to do this because after Provost Andrew Storer speaks, she's going to give thanks to many people who helped make this possible, but she wouldn't be thanking herself, so that's why we're doing this now. She led the effort in coordinating this event. Thank you for all you did, Rachel, and the rest of the team that Rachel will be thanking for the work you do. Finally, please allow me to introduce Dr. Andrew Storer, our interim provost, who's graciously stepped up to help out because unfortunately our president, Dr. Kobach, couldn't make it tonight. So now I turn it over to Dr. Storer. Thank you.
So good evening and welcome to this beautiful space. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this banquet on behalf of Michigan Tech President Dr. Rick Kobach. So often we hear about how we appreciate being able to come back together in person following the interruptions that were caused by the pandemic. But I think that this event is truly special in this regard. We have missed the opportunity to come together in person to honor and celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This banquet, along with the other events held today at Michigan Tech and around the nation, reaffirm our commitment to the memory of Dr. King, what he taught us, and what he stood for. As Wayne alluded to Michigan Tech's vision, there's a statement in there that includes, Michigan Tech is a globally recognized technological university that educates students, advances knowledge, and innovates to improve the quality of life and to promote mutual respect and equity for all people within the state, the nation, and the global community. Today is a time and an opportunity to reflect on and learn from the past, review progress, identify next steps, and communicate our commitment to the goals of equity and inclusion and to racial justice. This is work that must permeate all that we do as we ask ourselves how we contribute to equity and inclusion and to diversity and sense of belonging in our daily lives. As we look forward to our meal and conversations with those at our tables, I want to express my thanks to the MLK Banquet Planning Committee, the MUB staff, and to the Rosé Center for their contributions that make this evening a highlight of the year for our community. Please enjoy the evening, including the meal, the conversations, and our great keynote speaker. And tomorrow, please continue to honor the legacy of Dr. King. Thank you. And now I'm going to hand it over to Rachel.
All right. I think maybe, is that better? Can you hear me okay? In the back? Yes? Good. Okay, great. Hi. I thought I'd be familiar or unfamiliar with many of the faces here tonight, but it is so wonderful to see you all here. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Rachel Hathcote. I'm a newly minted multicultural student success coordinator for the Center for Diversity and Inclusion here at Michigan Tech, and also a graduate student in the Department of Rhetoric, Theory, and Culture. I believe it's fitting for me to say this tonight. When I was an undergraduate student, I would sit in shame hoping that I wouldn't have to speak in class or that anyone would even see me. I say this in part because we never know what another's experiences might be or what they may be living through. But also, we have no idea where our paths will take us or who we will become. And while on that topic, I would like to say, if I mispronounce anyone's name tonight, I apologize in advance. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced the topic of my final presentation last semester, so really it's not my intent. And just a little more about me. So I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. So pardon my y'alls. I attended high school on the southeast side of the Mitt, so on Lake Michigan. But I moved up here to the Mother Lake, Lake Superior, in the midst or at the height of the pandemic in 2020. Financial aid was my first family here and my first community. So because of that, I'd especially like to thank Dr. Joseph Cooper, a former Bayard Rustin recipient, who is now the Dean of Students at Northland College, and Alyssa Ferdine, the current Director of Financial Aid, for their unwavering support for our students. As someone who is now on the outside of financial aid, I get to see and hear all the gratitude from your support. College is hard enough. But trying to figure out how to pay for it makes it even harder to concentrate on studies. So thank you, Alyssa and team. So after financial aid, I joined at the beginning of October, my newest family on campus, which is the CDI Familia. And was given the honor of chairing this MLK Planning Committee this year, and I said yes. However, it's a bit intimidating, quite honestly. All this event is meant to recognize and amplify in tech. And this was my first time leading a committee on this scale. Given that this is our first time we've had this in-person event in such a long time, there were a lot of challenges, but by coming together, we were able to pull it off. So what follows is a long list of things. When I call your name, please wave hi, or if you would like and are able to stand, please do so to recognize, to receive recognition and our gratitude. So I'd like to start by saying thanks to Dr. Wayne Gersey. Your compassion radiates out of you. Thank you for leading us through empathy and authenticity. Mike, our behind-the-scenes man who brightens our day when he graces us with his presence. I don't know where he is. And Paige Short. Paige is the Canva, copy, website wizard, and so much more. I can't say thanks enough, Paige. To our fearless leader, Gabriel Escobedo, thank you for your leadership, your awesome dance moves, and guitar playing skills. Ashley Curry, organizational queen, who was instrumental in so many ways, including tonight's banquet and our MLK craft event night last week. Dee, she's not here tonight, but she rocked many of the MLK candle holders that you see at your table. So thank you, Dee. And Chris, our communications and marketing man, he was there every step of the way. So thank you, Chris, wherever. Oh, there he is. Hey. Yes. Okay. Karen Wade. Your smile is infectious, but also thank you for handling all the budget sheets and transfers, itineraries, schedules, and so much more. For our CDI student workers, Trent, Gio, Amy, you all were amazing, from hanging posters to organizing and planning craft day, meticulously cutting the programs and dietary cards that you all have in your hands tonight, and so much more. So thank you. And that brings me to our MLK student committee members. Zach Zakaria, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Megan Tidwell, and Austin McFarland over here. Thank you all so much for spreading the word, offering your input, sharing support, just doing all the good things. Y'all have been amazing, and I thank you so much. All right, now for our MLK staff committee members. Dory Schaefer did an incredible job turning our vision into a reality for the library exhibit. Eric Davis, Christopher Sanders, who I've already mentioned. Oh, there he is again. Dar Slade Morris. Where's Dar? Can she wave? Oh, she's all the way back there. My goodness. Dar was instrumental in fundraising, rallying support for the prayer vigil, and so much more. Hannah for organizing, planning, and setting up this beautiful space that we have tonight. She's also got an amazing creative eye. Bree Tucker and Lisa Casper, who took the lead on our MLK reading day at the local schools. Y'all, I am so incredibly proud and impressed with what we all have accomplished. This has truly been a communal effort, and I cannot thank everyone on the committee enough. So now I want to thank to those who made tonight possible. This event wouldn't be possible without our incredible sponsors. So because of their generous donations, this event is free for our attendees. And at this time, I would like us to thank our sponsors listed on the screen, although I think it might be scrolling through. Is it scrolling? Okay. Yeah, it's scrolling. Okay, so thank you, sponsors. They are on the scroll screen. If we could give them all a round of applause. Thank you. Next, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our deans for joining us and supporting this event. If you are present, please wave or stand, whichever you prefer, or you don't have to at all, to receive a round of applause too. All right. And finally, I would like to thank those who helped plan this event and worked diligently to make this dream a reality. They include our students for volunteering and creating art in the spirit of the day and to honor MLK, our student orgs, the Black Students Association, National Society of Black Engineers, and the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. Also to the instructors and professors who allowed us to spread the word about today's events. Thank you so much. The Cooperative Campus Ministries and Rob Bishop for planning and hosting the MLK Interfaith Prayer Vigil held at the library earlier today. Thank you to Library Director Erin Modis, Dory again, and library staff for the stunning student art exhibit and service project. Thank you to both Davids, John and Jen Sams. They were great in helping put our vision of the exhibit into action. And you all, if you haven't already, please go check out the exhibit. It is really beautiful, very impactful. Our students made such amazing artwork, and I don't want you all to miss out. Rob Bishop, again, was also instrumental in planning our Peace March, and I'd also like to thank Dr. S. or Dr. Sutherland for leading the Peace March this afternoon. Thank you, Mary Jennings, George, Hannah, and all the staff at the Rosé for allowing us to use this beautiful space. Alan Meckler and the UP Jazz Collective for the fantastic music tonight. Catering for providing us with the meal. Michelle, Becca, and UMC for letting us borrow materials for tonight's centerpieces. Thank you for the welcoming address. And Dr. Menrick, thank you for your keynote speaker's suggestion and for your steadfast DEIS work. And to our keynote speaker, Dr. Adams, you are an inspiration. Thank you for saying yes, for sharing your time and your story with us tonight. We are beyond honored and grateful. And if we can, give a round of applause for that. All right, this will be the final thing I say, I promise. If Dr. King were alive today, what would he say of our community? What would we say? We've had some tension in our not some distant past, but I believe that he would see our community rally together, and I hope that he would be proud. More often than not, if someone's in a ditch during our winters, there's a community member willing to lend a helping hand. Or when a student loses their home and belongings in a local fire, our community comes together and inundates that student's department with donations. I say all of this because I've learned that this campus is a community, a real community. And although it's frequently said it takes a village, as a philosophy student, I'd argue it takes a community. So, if I may give a gentle yet firm encouragement and maybe implore you a little, let's make this more than a night. Let's make this more than a meal. Let's make this more than a dream and make this Michigan Tech's reality. I'm reminded every morning on my way to work that tomorrow needs Michigan Tech, but are we the Michigan Tech that tomorrow needs? And furthermore, how long before we realize that tomorrow is already today? So, my final thank you is to you all for being here tonight. Thank you for all that you do in word and in deed. And besides thanks, I would like to say the second two most important words of the evening until our keynote speaker. Let's eat. All right, thank you all. And catering will be dismissing tables, so they will let you know which order to go in. Thank you. Say hey. Hello? Hi, everybody? Can you hear me? Louder? Can you hear me now? Good. All right. Okay, and now I would like to introduce Dr. Adrienne Minerick, our 2022 University Diversity Award winner. She's a professor of chemical engineering, a strong advocate for our students, and the former advisor of our keynote speaker. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Adrienne Minerick to the stage.
Thank you, Rachel. The themes of my introduction tonight are going to be It's a Small World and Helping Hands Form a Chain of Success. So, Tayloria came to Michigan Tech on a GEM fellowship after having earned her BS in chemical engineering from Virginia Commonwealth University. And I learned years later that it was the helping hand of Dr. Stephanie Adams, no relation to this Dr. Adams, and the role she had in bringing Michigan Tech onto Tayloria's radar. So there's your first theme. It's a very small world. See, Dr. Stephanie Adams, who was at VCU at the time and is now Dean of Engineering at UT Dallas, had visited Michigan Tech a year or two before. And it was because of that visit that she encouraged Tayloria to look at us closer. So once Tayloria visited, Our community, all of you, did the rest of the recruiting for her and her young daughter. So that's theme 2, helping hands really make a difference. So I first met Tayloria as a master's student. She was in my advanced kinetics class and then enrolled the semester after that in a special topics analytical microdevice technology class. Now to date, even though I've taught that class a number of times, Tayloria and her co-author CJ Yang are the only students to follow through on my annual offer to revise their class project into a publication. And so that, I think, was one of her first publications. She had her master's and then the other one. So I've noticed this attribute of Tayloria's over the years. She's proactive, following through on opportunities. And just draw attention to that theme too, that sometimes the helping hands are really your own. When granted an opportunity, you take the next step to transition that. So as Tayloria was finishing her master's, she asked to join my research group and matriculate into the PhD program. And we partnered with a faculty in biomedical engineering, Dr. Feng Zhao, who unfortunately is no longer here at Michigan Tech, to examine the dielectrophoretic properties of human mesenchymal stem cells. In the first year, I noticed that Tayloria was being fragmented. And this was, there are well-intentioned people and programs all over campus. And an example of this is, at that time, Ceci Fleming was director of CDI. Nesby, others, Darnisha Morris, whose name you heard earlier, has had a ton of impact on this institution over the years. They were all very fond of Tayloria, for obvious reasons. She's an excellent role model then and is now. So she ended up leading, Tayloria did, visible and important things like an exhibit in the Van Pelt Library and the Carnegie Museum during Black History Month. You get the idea. So the theme of helping hands goes both ways here. But I had a job as Tayloria's PhD advisor, and I knew that other PhD students were not being tasked with all of these other responsibilities over and above their research. And I knew that when it comes to going for that next position, her credentials were going to be put on a yardstick next to theirs, all right? And they didn't have these other responsibilities. So I did 2 things. First, I talked to Tayloria, made sure it was okay that I interfered a little bit, as well as these other members of her support network, and asked them to help us set Tayloria up for success by limiting their asks of her so that research really could be her first task and she wasn't tasked repeatedly with saying no to things that were near and dear to her heart. And second, I pushed Tayloria during our group and one-on-one meetings, telling her, you need more data, you need greater N numbers of cells within this narrow category, etc. As with everything else, Tayloria rose to the occasion, figured out some really neat dependencies, and published these all in very prominent journals. This culminated in her earning her PhD and becoming the first African-American woman to do so in the chemical engineering department here at Michigan Tech. So Dr. Adams has always had a passion for mentoring above and beyond the research, teaching, and other tasks normally asked of PhD students. Do you know that when she was here, she spent time in CDI helping advise in many of the programs that are ongoing today? She then went on to a postdoc in the medical side of stem cell characterization with a colleague of ours at national conferences in the dielectrophoresis arena. Again, that theme of a small world. She earned a National Science Foundation postdoctoral fellowship, and from all of the hard work and the accolades that came in publications, she earned an assistant professor position in chemical engineering at UC Irvine. Her creative research ideas and outstanding record earned her an NSF Career Award in 2021. The list of accolades is long and growing longer. Now, Dr. Adams and I have maintained a close mentoring relationship over the years, and I will tell you the mentoring goes both ways. She has a big, big heart and is a helping hand herself. Last night, she stayed with my family and I, and slept with a quilt that my great-grandmother hand-stitched from scrap clothing during the Depression. So Tayloria is an extended part of our family, so it's a huge and humbling honor to introduce Dr. Tayloria Adams as your keynote speaker for Michigan Tech's Martin Luther King Jr. Banquet tonight.
Hi, everyone. So just a sound check, can everyone on the corners or in the corners hear me okay? Yes? Okay. I can turn up the volume as necessary. So thank you for that warm introduction. I do have a big heart, and I hope that you all will get a sense of that and the things that I share. And the heart that I have was shaped and cultivated by many different people that I've interacted with here at Michigan Tech, but also people in my family whom I'll highlight, the students that I work with, whether it was here or at the University of California, Irvine. There's a lot of people who've poured into me that have shaped and molded my heart, and I hope that you all will get a sense of that during this time that we have together. So you see the title that I have for the keynote, Legacy, Reflections, and Building. So I want to spend a little bit of time reflecting on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and then also spend a little bit of time talking about the legacy that I would like to build, that I'm working on building. So first, I just want to say that it's a huge honor for me to be the keynote speaker for this 34th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Banquet. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. has done a lot for Black people in this country, and he continues to inspire people, including me. I do not take this invitation lightly, and it is my hope that something I say tonight will land on you in such a way that you will start or continue to do the good work necessary to further civil rights. It is my firm belief that the civil rights movement is ongoing and that we're still in the civil rights movement. And just to add to the thank yous, I do want to thank everyone who worked so hard and diligently to put this banquet together. It is beautiful. It's so wonderful to share this time with you all. And so I just want to thank you all for being here, especially since this is the first banquet in person since the pandemic. So it took me a minute to decide how to start off the speech tonight. And I decided to start by centering us in this space. I want to center us in thinking about the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man that was born on January 15th, 1929, and was killed on April 4th, 1968. At the age of 39, he was killed for daring to dream of a world where every person is truly created equal, a world where the civil rights movement is no longer necessary because everyone on this earth is treated as a human. A world in which society functions as one race, the human race. So to center us, I'd like to read a quote by Dr. King and have us sit for 1 minute and reflect. And if your mind wanders in these 60 seconds of reflection, use one word to recenter yourself and recenter your thoughts. The one word should be one that comes to mind when you think of Dr. King. My word will be dreamer. So I'm going to start with the quote, and I do have a timer going on my laptop, so I'll track 60 seconds, and then we'll keep going. So here's the quote. There are some things so dear, some things so precious, some things so eternally true, that they are worth dying for. And I submit to you that if a man has not discovered something that he will die for, he isn't fit to live. So I'll start the 60 seconds now. And with the conclusion of our reflection, I like to say that the civil rights movement is worth dying for. Equality in every form is worth dying for. To all of you in this room, what would you die for? So I stated that I like to start by reflecting on his legacy. And so a couple of things come to mind when I think about Dr. King and his legacy. And one point is that he valued education. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. began his legacy as a young boy. He moved through primary and secondary school quickly, skipping the 9th and 12th grades. He attended Morehouse College, a historically black college and university, at age 15, and obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree in sociology in 1948. Dr. King was a man of faith, so while at Morehouse College, he became an ordained minister. After that, he attended Crozer Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania and earned a Bachelor of Divinity in 1951. And from there, he pursued graduate studies at Boston University, where he earned his PhD in 1955. During this time in the South, events were taking place in Montgomery, Alabama, leading to the start of the Civil Rights Movement. In 2 instances, a black girl, Claudette Colvin, and a black woman, Rosa Parks, refused to give up their bus seats, which violated Jim Crow laws. As we know, Jim Crow laws enforced racial segregation, and these incidences led to the Montgomery bus boycott. Another point that I think about when I think about the legacy of Dr. King is that he stood firm with nonviolent resistance. Dr. King's response to racial segregation was nonviolent resistance, a principle he learned from studying Gandhi and India's fight for independence from Great Britain. Dr. King believed that nonviolent resistance was the strongest weapon black people had in their fight for civil rights in America. He noted, and I quote, "They," referring to the police, "know how to handle violence, but they've proved over and over again that they don't know how to handle nonviolence." And so the response of police to the nonviolent protests was violence. Dr. King believed that hate should be met with love, meaning that people should maintain compassion for individuals while fighting discriminatory systems. Nonviolent resistance became the founding principle of Dr. King's contribution to the civil rights movement, and his position on nonviolent protests energized many people and movements. And in terms of energizing movements, the legacy of Dr. King is the civil rights movement. Dr. King was a dynamic speaker, and he vocalized the oppression of black people, the oppression that black people experience elegantly. He had a way of organizing individuals for a single cause, and because of this, critical movements took place, which led to legislation being passed, moving the needle forward, or moving the needle towards civil rights for black people in this country. And so some of those critical events are the 1955 bus boycott. In 1957, the formation of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. In the 1960s, the sit-ins that took place in Atlanta, Georgia, and Greensboro, North Carolina. In 1963, the March on Washington. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act. And in 1965, the Voting Rights Act. Part of Doctor's legacy is the movements that he energized and the politics he influenced. Dr. King awakened the conscience of many people around the world. Dr. King's work shows the power of protest, and I have some images here that you can see that just shows what modern day protests have looked like as it concerns police violence. So what else has survived the legacy of Dr. King? In 1966, Edward Brooke was elected by popular vote the first black US senator. In 1967, Thurgood Marshall was sworn in as the first black Supreme Court justice. Also in 1967, Carl Stokes and Richard Hatcher were elected the first black mayors of Cleveland, Ohio, and Gary, Indiana, respectively. In 1968, Shirley Chisholm was the first Black woman elected to Congress. In 1992, Carol Moseley Braun was the first Black woman elected to Senate. In 2008, Barack Obama was elected the first Black president. And in 2020, Kamala Harris was elected the first Black vice president. So the work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the ongoing struggle for civil rights has influenced and shaped my legacy. Dr. King's work has allowed me to have a legacy, and so now I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about what my legacy is. I would like to reflect on my legacy as it stands now and where I would like it to go in the future. So I'm going to start with my family and those who shaped me. So you can see on your screens I have some images shared here, and give me a moment as I go through a brief description of who these individuals are. So first I have my maternal grandmother, Crostella Williamson. She was born on April 12, 1918, and died on June 1, 1980. It's been 43 years since her death. My grandmother had a third-grade education, and she earned a living as a farm worker in Melvin, Alabama. She picked cotton, vegetables, and she also did domestic work and cleaning homes. My grandmother did not know how to write, so my mother and my uncle taught her how to spell her name, and before then, she used to sign documents with only the letter X. My grandmother, Crostella Williamson, had 10 children. Next, I have my maternal grandfather, Carl Williamson. He was born on October 17, 1894, and died on January 1, 1955. It's been 68 years since his death. My grandfather had a third-grade education, and he earned a living as a log scaler in Melvin, Alabama. Even though he had a third-grade education, my grandfather was considered the smartest person in his community, and he could determine the amount of lumber in square footage that could be obtained from a tree just by looking at it. Needless to say, based on their birth and death dates, I never met my maternal grandparents, but their impact on my life is everlasting. They raised my mother, whom I'll highlight in a moment, and my mother has been a force in my life. The things that I've been able to accomplish is due to the support of my mother. And so therefore, my maternal grandparents have also been a force in my life. Next, I have my paternal grandmother, Linda Gail Powell Adams. She was born on August 8, 1937, in Greensville County, Virginia, and she died on July 12, 2018, and it's been 4 years since her death. Linda had a sixth-grade education, and she obtained her GED. My grandmother held many jobs as a homemaker for her 12 children. She supported her husband's electric company as a bookkeeper, and she was also a school bus driver in Greensville County, Virginia. I'm connected to my grandmother in the most beautiful way. We share a middle name, Gail. My grandmother affectionately referred to me as her namesake. I take pride in my middle name, the initial G. In every research presentation, publication, grant, and other accolades, my name reads as Dr. Tayloria N.G. Adams, and this is one way that I honor her, and she deserves it. My grandmother did not have a lot of education, but her legacy will live on forever as a part of higher education due to the contributions that I have. And then I have my paternal grandfather. Jonah Adams Sr. was born June 28, 1928, and died on September 30th, 1997. It's been 25 years since his death. My grandfather was a veteran. He served in the Vietnam War. My grandfather attended college at Virginia State College, which is now Virginia State University, also an HBCU. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, and he started his own business, the Adams Electric Company in Emporia, Virginia, and this is how he supported his family. My grandfather died when I was 12 years old, so I don't have many memories of him, but his entrepreneurial spirit and his love for science runs vigorously through my veins. And a quick plug, I am going to show you like one brief slide about the science that I do. And so for context, when Dr. King was born, my grandparents were either not born, my grandmother Linda had not been born yet, or they were as old as 34. My grandfather, Carl Williamson, was 34 years old. When Dr. King began his activism in the 1950s, he was 26 years old. My grandmothers were 37 and 18. one of my grandfathers was 28 and the other had passed away. During my grandparents' lives, Dr. King was working hard for Black people in the South to have equal rights. The civil rights movement was in full swing. I did not have the opportunity to talk with my grandparents explicitly about the civil rights movement, but I can only imagine what they witnessed as they lived in Alabama and in Virginia. So now I'd like to highlight my mother. My mother, Gloria Jean Adams, was born on January 29, 1951 in Melvin, Alabama. My mother will celebrate her 72nd birthday in just 13 days on January 29th. My mother attended Tuskegee University and HBCU and got her bachelor's degree in biology. My mother worked at the Medical College of Virginia as a registered nurse for 16 years. She continued working as a registered nurse at St. Mary's Hospital until her retirement. And after her retirement, she continued to work as an in-home caregiver until the start of the pandemic. My mother was truly dedicated to helping others in their time of medical need. My mother is strong. My mother is compassionate. My mother is smart. My mother is selfless. My mother is an amazing woman. And in just a moment, you'll understand exactly why or how. And then I have my father, Jonah Adams Jr., who was born on August 17, 1953, in Petersburg, Virginia, and died on November 1, 2003. My father also attended Tuskegee University and obtained his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. My father was an accomplished engineer. He held 2 patents in his name. He worked at Philip Morris until his death. My father loved math. My father loved science. My father loved sports. My father loved his children. And my father passed away when I was just 18, and I do miss him dearly. And then I do have a picture here of me. This is me. This is also me. I have a picture of me and my siblings. I had to have 2 because for some reason one of my sisters is not in this picture. But my siblings, Monica, Brandon, Don, and Jonah, I love them. They are my supporters. They are my cheerleaders. They are more than likely watching this on YouTube right now, so I didn't want to leave them out. Shout out to you. But they support me in everything that I do. They made sure that I sent them the YouTube link to view this keynote tonight. So I love my siblings, and there's a lot of stories that I could share about our childhood, but I won't for the sake of time. And then now, this gets me to my greatest achievement, my daughter. And everybody that I mentioned up until this point has helped me in the most amazing way in helping me raise my daughter. My daughter, Ayanna Monique Nicole Adams, was born on July 18, 2003. She graduated from high school in 2021, and she's now a second-year student at Arizona State University and majoring in biomedical engineering. My story and Ayanna's story are obviously intertwined. She was born 1 month after I graduated from high school, 1 month before I started college at Virginia Commonwealth University. She was just 4 months old when my father passed away during my first year of college. Ayanna helped me, and she didn't even know that she was helping me as I processed the death of my father. My father passed away from a heart attack. So during that time, I just focused on raising Ayanna the best I could with the support of my family and also going to school. Ayanna has been with me my entire academic career, from undergraduate to grad school. She was here with me when I moved to Michigan Tech. She was with me when I went to California for my postdoc. And she is with me now as I'm an assistant professor. She's away at college, but she is with me. She has motivated me at every stage in my career. And as an engineer, as a scientist, a professor, and a human being, I work hard to make academia a place where she and all students can see themselves thriving. And so I want to focus on what motivates my legacy. So I have a graphic here, and the goal, it might be a little small, so if it is, my apologies. But the goal is just to show that there is a lack of representation of marginalized people in STEM. And so this graph highlights underrepresented minorities, Black and African American, Hispanic and Latino, American Indian, and Alaskan Native. And these are percentages of people in STEM without a bachelor's degree, and then folks in STEM with a bachelor's degree or higher. And the goal, what I would just like you to see, is that these numbers are low in comparison to others. And so this motivates my work. We still have work to do to make STEM and academia more inclusive, to intentionally create places where marginalized people can thrive. And again, this motivates my scholarship. As a Black woman in STEM, early exposure was critical to my success. I was exposed to STEM in my family through my father, through science programs in high school, and through organizations such as the National Society of Black Engineers. In my time during this visit today, I have met with a couple of students that are a part of NSBE, and I would like to encourage all students to join the organization. And so I'm motivated by the lack of representation, and that plays a part in the science that I work on. So I have some videos just looping, which I'll get to in a moment, but one of the things that my research focuses on is creating supportive technologies using the engineering tools that I have in order to eventually support diseases that have health disparities associated with them. So my lab focuses on working with stem cells and also cancer cells, and we use a technology or a phenomenon called dielectrophoresis, which we have on microfluidic platforms in order to examine biological cells. And so I do just have a video because I think they're pretty cool, just to highlight the science. So here is, and I think I messed it up by moving my arrow, but the larger black box is a video of some stem cells flowing through a microfluidic device. Some cells are flowing in a straight line, others are kind of moving at a diagonal, and so based on that, we're able to determine the electrical properties. And remember, my grandfather was an electrician, so it's no wonder that this is super interesting to me. But we're able to determine the electrical property of stem cells and learn a lot about their biological properties. We're also able to examine the electrical properties of prostate cancer cells and determine the electrical signatures at time points when they go from being resistant to chemotherapy drugs and then non-resistant to chemotherapy drugs. And so the goal is to just work on platforms, tools that can eventually help support the treatment of cancer or help move stem cell therapies to further advance them for clinical applications. And as Dr. Menerick highlighted, there are a lot of helping hands. A lot of people have helped me throughout my entire career, and I have some listed here, and I would like you all to see that important note at the top that this list is not exhaustive. I do want to just take a moment and call out the names of everyone that I do have on this slide. There are some folks that are in the room tonight, so I'm just going to read them out because I believe that they do deserve recognition. They have poured so much into me. They've poured so much into my daughter, and so it's just nice to recognize them. So I have those who have lifted me up: Dr. Adrian Menerick, Darnisha Morris, Kabongo Nundu, Dr. Renee Oates, Sezi Fleming, Kelly Raffaelli, Dr. Kevin Bradford, Carnell Hunter, Dr. Edwin Manuki, Christine Anderson, Gabrielle Agarucci, Tricia Koppler, Dr. Tanya Bradford, Dr. Christine Grant, Valencia Rucker, Dr. Shakira Hobbs, Priscilla Griffin, Dr. Brian Cummings, Dr. Lisa Flanagan, Ashley Fueri, Dr. Feather R. Harris, Dr. Eileen Anderson, Juanika Dildy, Dr. Elliot Botnovic, Dr. Ronke Olabisi, Dr. Sharnia Artis, Dr. Herdeline Ardonia, Dr. Roderick Crooks, Dr. Stephanie Adams, Dr. Naomi Chesler, Dr. Stacy Flinley, Dr. Erdem Sazmaz, Hector Blanos, and Pastor Ralph Williamson. These are all people who have contributed to me in some way. A lot of them have been super supportive in me being a mother and a student, a researcher, and they've all just, they've really poured into my life. And so I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge them here. And please, please note, this list is not exhaustive. So if there's some people missing here who are maybe watching on YouTube, I love you. It is not intentional, but as you can see, I did run out of space, and I just want you to know that there is a lot that goes into the career path that I have. There's a lot that goes into being a graduate student and being a postdoc and then being a faculty member. And without these individuals and others, I wouldn't be able to stand before you today. And so, just in thinking about the future of my legacy, one of the things that I try to do as a faculty member, I try to show up in a space when I teach students, show up in a way that they know that they all can be successful in the classroom. I want all of my students to know that they can all be engineers, they can all get PhDs if they have the support system, if they have the motivation, and if they have the grind, and an emphasis on the support system. It takes everyone at institutions of higher education to make sure that all students that enter our campuses have the support system necessary to thrive and do well and matriculate and achieve their goals of getting their degrees. And so for my legacy and the future of my legacy, I want to be known as a person who strives and works really hard to attain that. I want to make my mark in science. I want to continue to publish on the cool techniques of dielectrophoresis, on stem cell applications, on treating prostate cancer. And then I want to continue, I work with colleagues at UCI and working on just how everyone can create inclusive classrooms. And so I want to continue doing that work as well. And as Dr. Menerick highlighted in the introduction, all of the work that I'm doing in the lab is funded by the National Science Foundation. And so lastly, I want to end the way we started, just reflecting on Dr. King. I'm going to read the quote one more time, and I have one last final remark, or maybe three. So the quote, "There are some things so dear, some things so precious, some things so eternally true that are worth dying for. And I submit to you that if a man has not discovered something that he will die for, that he isn't fit to live." So one of my three last final thoughts is that Dr. King's work allows us, he worked to make things equitable in this country for Black people. And so we can stand on the work as we have. We can continue to stand on his work and make science more equitable and representative of all people. And when we do things like that, it allows people like me and others to achieve first. And so I just want to say humbly, right, in 2014, when I obtained my PhD from Michigan Tech, I was the first Black woman to get my PhD in chemical engineering at Michigan Tech. And I also want to say humbly that when I started my faculty position in 2018 at the University of California, Irvine, I was the first Black woman to be hired into the School of Engineering. And so when we work to make things equitable, when we work to increase representation, it allows many more people to have first, and then it allows us to not just be the first, but to be one of many. And so I just want to end there. I thank you all for your attention. I again thank you for the invitation. I thank the weather here that it didn't snow too heavily, right? We had rain, and I appreciate the rain. And so that's all I have. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I'm going to do a quick computer switcheroo before the next point, so just don't mind me. I think I'm a cool. No, your water? Okay, yes, it is. It's on the other, I think it's on the other side. It's on the other side. Okay.
Thank you again, Dr. Adams, for an incredible speech. We are thankful and honored that you're able to join us this evening. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing Nesby, who will be presenting the Bayard Rustin Award. For those who don't know, the National Society of Black Engineers, or NSBE, is one of the largest student-governed organizations in the country, with more than 35,000 members. Founded in 1975, NSBE now includes more than 450 college, pre-college, and technical professional alumni chapters in the United States and abroad. NSBE's mission is to increase the number of culturally responsive Black engineers who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. We here at Tech are grateful to our outstanding and dedicated students who are part of NSBE. You are a pillar to our student community and a part of our CDI family. At this time, I'd like to welcome one of our incredible and outstanding leaders in NSBE, Arlethea Bell.
Hello, everyone. Starting off great. Okay. Hello, everyone. As Gabe stated, my name is Arlethea Bell. I am the president, along with Giovanni Diaz, of NSBE, and I will be presenting the Bayard Rustin Award. In 2019, NSBE began the tradition of awarding the Bayard Rustin Award to a servant leader on campus during the annual MLK reception. This student-nominated award honors a servant leader who is often behind the scenes, making significant strides, and recognizes them publicly for their commitment. Bayard Rustin acted as an influential advisor behind the scenes to civil rights leaders. He worked alongside Dr. King and helped organize freedom rides and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Rustin also served as an organizer for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. On November 20th, 2013, President Barack Obama posthumously awarded Rustin the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Therefore, it is here, during our 34th annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration banquet, that we, the National Society for Black Engineers, would like to present this year's Bayard Rustin Award to Christopher Sanders. Chris is the advisor for NSBE, as well as the assistant director for the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. In the short time that he has been a member of the tech community, he has been instrumental in ensuring the continuation of programs which support diversity on Tech's campus, such as the My Cup Scholars Program and the Husky Connect Mentorship Program, along with many others. Chris is super down to earth, and he enjoys getting to know the students on campus, which is evident by the way he interacts with us in the CDI. Many students have expressed how easy it is for them to connect and talk to him, whether they are asking about campus resources or chatting about anime. Chris is also extremely humble and openly admits to his shortcomings. But there are times that I think he may not realize how valuable his contributions are to the tech community. That is all.
Rachel told me I had to say something, so, but thank you. I really don't know what to say. This is the second award I got at Tech. But I think this one being from the students just hits a little bit different. Anything that I do in my job is for you all, especially, y'all in that back row I see that's always through the CDI. So I love and appreciate y'all. I just want y'all to know that. So.
tripped. Would have made you laugh. Thank you all for attending tonight. But before we end, I'm going to call Dr. Wayne Garcia up onto the stage before I finish us off. Before you finish that off? But you're talking. Come on. I was told to pause.
All right. Chris, impressive. Congratulations. I feel like a proud papa. Congrats. So, Dr. Adams, if you can join me here on the stage one more time. We have a little token of our appreciation that we want to share with you. Whichever you wish. So we want to thank you for making the time out of your busy schedule to spend with us. And as a token of our appreciation, we want to share this plaque with you. And it says, Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Keynote Speaker. Deepest appreciation is extended to Dr. Tayloria Adams for serving as keynote speaker at the Michigan Technological University Center for Diversity and Inclusion 34th Annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day Celebration, held on the 16th day of January 2023. So you got the YouTube, and now you got the plaque. All right? Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for everything. You want to get in on this? Can you stand between? What are we going to do? Let me move. I got too much girl.
One more picture?
You should switch with her so she can stand in the middle.
Oh, you. Oh,
Yes, yes.
okay.
Oh, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze.
Should I hold it up?
Oh, yeah.
Practice this skit, all right?
We get it? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Evening, you want me to make, you got it?
I got it.
Okay, you got it, okay.
All right. So as we end our program for the evening, I would like to take this time to thank all the faculty, staff, students, and community members who joined us. Let's take this time to give everyone a round of applause, please. Thank you. All right. Finally, a feedback email will be sent to you so that we can improve for next year. So yeah, thank you all again, and we hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.